options, how to work with them. And after understanding the positions, now another option is in the CSS. So we need to know about how to deal with the text and other basic effects, how to work with them, right? So what are the other effects we need to understand in the styles? Let's see. Yeah, in the CSS, borders, backgrounds, padding, margins, we learned how to deal with columns, formattings, and all. One more very regularly used options in CSS is working with multiple columns. Because designing contents requires multiple columns also. Working with multiple columns is a simple and easy option actually. CSS provides attributes to organize content into columns. For that, the attributes columns without a grid actually. Generally, grid have rows and columns, and this is only columns. And the properties we have like column count. So column count. So that means how many columns you want. You can define the column count. So we have the column width, and you have column gap. We have column rule, and we have like column span, like this. These are very regularly used options. Mostly like newspaper things and all, generally when you see this kind of content will be very common actually. Very common. How to design this? One simple example, we will see that. So that means how we can use these attributes. Usually, suppose you have newspapers, like online, say some newspapers. So some newspapers like some Indian Express. So here we have Indian Express, some newspapers related websites are there, and you see the content they present in a columnar way. In the columns again divisions will be there. Generally newspaper contents we can have in a columnar way. Suppose I will copy this area. That means by using a snipe, just logo. I will take the logo from that, and let's keep this. So this is the logo we have, some Indian Express. Okay, some copy that, and so we are using. So we are keeping that somewhere. Better to save it actually, right? Fine. Now the point is we can add anything, right? So just design is important. So contents here. Yeah. Now this is the just logo. We have this logo. Now usually I want this to handle the content and display the content. So just roughly I defined this. Better keep it in a simple way. Fine. Okay, so that is so that I can fill this. Okay, let it be. Now here, this is the design, and what we want is we want to just create something like a newspaper screen. Generally, this contains a lot of columns of information actually. So columnar information. So let's save this as a logo, news logo, and keep in our full stack images. So that is there. Fine. Now I want here. So here I want here the content to display in the columns. So let's create a new file like columns.html. Right. Now in this, so we will design a simple header. So doc type HTML and head. Title some news, some body. And here we have a header. In the header, we are having an image. Image source is equal to some images. So news logo.png. So here we will keep the style. So header. So header. So here text align to center. Center. Okay. And this is just at the top. We have configured an header. Now under that, we want some columns to display. So that is the header displayed there. We want some columns information to display below this, some columns information to come. So then below the header, so I'm just adding a main. So here I'm adding a main. And in the main, so we are adding some content. So in the main, we have a div. So and the class as container. Okay. And in this, we have some paragraphs of information. So we have paragraphs of information defined. So some paragraphs of information. Suppose I kept heading some latest news. So some paragraphs below this. Usually all the paragraphs information will be kept one below another. So this is all the paragraph information copy. And I'm keeping these paragraphs here. Okay. Fine. There can be a lot of paragraphs of information. So I will copy that and paste. Okay. So 3-4 paragraphs of information we pasted here. Now the point is, so generally, so that is done. And you can see, yeah. And this will be displayed in this way. I want to organize this in a columnar way. Then actually when we use a grid, we mentioned in which column, which content you want. So first paragraph in left column or right column, column number, row number. But in newspaper like contents, so we actually don't need that distribution. Actually, we want everything column wise continue. That means first column, after that second column, third column, like that. We want this content to continue. Then it's very simple. What we can do is in the styles. So for this container, so we can just use the class container. And for container, we can just say how many columns you want count. So we can define that. That means I'm defining, so the container. So we have columns count how much. Columns count for the container is, suppose columns count actually. How many columns you want? Suppose I want 5 columns. I'm distributing this everything into 5 columns. Okay, now you can see all the content distributed into 5 columns. So all the content will be text aligned, so justified. So that means container text alignment will be justified. and it is divided into 5 columns. It is a continuous content actually, one beside another, continuing. These paragraphs contents are continuing. And you can define some width between the columns. So then you can define here. So column width you can use. Column width, suppose 50 pixel. That means the width of column will be adjusted here. So we can define the column gap also. So that means column gap. So column gap, how much? Suppose that is also 50 pixels. Then you can see it is adjusted. Suppose I want this as 40 pixels. So then it will adjust a little bit. So 20 pixels column gap. That is the gap between the columns. You can also give a column rule actually. Column rule is a column rule is like dotted double. You can give a column rule. It will get a separator line. You can keep the content separated there. You can get the separated line and display that here. We can also merge the columns. So we can merge the columns. Suppose at any location, so we want to merge the columns. So, but remember, you can merge only all columns. You cannot merge 2 columns, 3 columns like that. So either you can keep the headers anywhere in between. In between, you can have headings. After the 3rd paragraph, I have a heading. So I have a heading here. So that is some sports news. So, and you can get that sport news here. It will just continue the content. But I want something like merging. Then what I will do is I will keep a heading here. So not here, suppose after this paragraph, I will just keep here. So some paragraph. Okay, here I'm adding a heading. And heading, so we can just use from, I am using a marquee. So in the marquee, we will put some scroll amount. Scroll amount is equal to 10. That is the marquee scroll amount. And here we are writing some message as published from Delhi, some Hyderabad, some Mumbai, like this. Chennai. So like this, we are defining published from there. So that is the heading. And for this heading, suppose I use the ID as banner. Okay, this is heading. Actually, that heading comes here. You see, that comes here. But I want it to span all the columns. Then simply what you can do is hash. So wherever we have banner, that is the heading actually. So we can simply put here. So column span all, and we can keep the text aligned to center, column span on, and we can put some background color. Some gray is the background color. Some background color is different. Some light gray I will give as background color. So I defined light gray, some background color. And you can see that now it will span the entire, and it will display in this way. You are merging and you are spanning, and you know the scrolling speeds, content to scroll, everything you can manage according to your. This is arranging information into multiple columns and defining that into multiple columns. This kind of arrangement, so you can see regularly. Anywhere you can do. That's not only here. Suppose see, generally at the bottom. So suppose after the main we have a footer. And in the footer, we want to keep our details. So that means in the footer, I am creating a div. Okay, this is one div. In this div, I defined some options like, so this is like local news. And we have unordered list and the list item. And here I will define local news, suppose some AP news, something like this. And the daily news, so daily news, something like this. And we have some TS news, something. So some options we are configuring like this, some Chennai news, something like this. And we have another option, so div, so we have some another heading, so sports news. So, and here we have defined some unordered list again, so list item, so like soccer, so list item, so like cricket, like this. So list item like hockey, so like this, something I defined that. Some options are configured there. Like this, we can have several columns. So we can have several columns. So that means I can add another one, another column, and we can keep something else. Suppose I defined as some entertainment, or simply like movie news, right? Like this, we have content. So to define, we have contents to define. In the footer, we have. Now, how many columns the footer should have? So that means generally footer is at the bottom like this. Now, generally, how that footer need to display? So footer, so background color as black. So black, so color as some white. Okay. And for the footer, I'm giving option like column count as some three columns count we need to display there, because we have three sets of divs, and we have some margin top. So margin top defined here. You can apply everything. For that, first you need to follow the class. That's it. Once you follow the class, you will apply everything. You will learn about applying everything. Okay. Whatever you need, your needs and necessities will be satisfied by this CSS. Okay. It will do. How to apply? For that only you are learning the class. If you continue, you can understand, right? We are learning those concepts only. Okay. Those comes under text effects, huh? Right? So these are, currently we are discussing what effects? Column effects. You can do everything whatever you want, right? But for that we need other effects to understand. Just you follow, you will understand, right? So I'm giving margin top. I defined as some options like 20 pixel. Okay. Now you can see the columns will be displayed at the bottom in this way. We can keep the content in our own style. So that means you can arrange everything in this way. Placements, alignments, how you want, you can change them. So, but this is the columnar content. We can define the columnar content. So these are the options, generally how we can manage the content to display in columns. This is multiple columns. Currently our topic is how to handle multiple columns, how we can use multiple columns and define multiple columns. And for that, these are all the options you can use. And this is one simple example. So wherever you see the columns continuing one after another, then you can use this. So when to use grid and when to use these columns. Grid is used when you want to organize into rows and columns. And this is only for columns. So no rows, right? Everything is arranged into columns. Only one row will be there. Right? That is how generally you can manage. So the columns, configure the columns and work with the columns, right? This is multiple columns and grid styles, how to handle them. Next important in CSS, we have text styling. That means how to format the text. So font, colors, effects, styles, how we can handle the text styling. For that, lot of attributes are there. So lot of attributes and properties are there. We can use those attributes and apply the text styling. So CSS provides several attributes for text styling. styling. That means fonts, colors, effects, and all this. So with that, you can achieve whatever related to text styling, right? So that means generally, for text styling, basically what are the various attributes available? So actually we have color, and you know this. So color is used for, so defines foreground color. Foreground color. Foreground color is the text color that we are using from several days. We have font family. Font family like Arial, Times New Roman, which font you want. So it defines the font family name. And we have font size. It defines the font size. These all we are using. It defines font size. Already we have used. Then we have font weight. Font weight is nothing but it defines normal, bold, lighter, and bolder effects. These are nothing but thick, very thick, light, like that. We have font style. Usually font style is used for, so it defines options like italic. It defines options like italic effect. Italic effects, so for that we have font style. We have text transform. This is text transform. Text transform, actually what it does is it defines the transformation, like you can convert to uppercase, you can convert to lowercase, you can convert to capitalize. So we can set full width. So all these are text transformations. You want to convert to uppercase, convert to lowercase. So these are all text transformations. How you transform the text, right? And I will show you this, right? And we have text decoration. Text decoration, we know some text decorations, like we can keep underline, we can keep overline, you can keep line through. All this comes under text decoration, right? Individually you can also define. So that means text decoration can have separately. So you can also configure. You can also configure individually. Actually, for that we have attributes like text decoration. We have text decoration color. We have like text decoration style. So we have like text decoration line. All these are text decoration related options. So what is the line style? What is the style? We can add all together. We can add text decoration, color, style, lines, and all. I will show you examples. We will see. We have text shadow. We can keep shadow for the set. Defines shadow for text. We can also give a text align, so which already we know, text align. So we can give left, center, right, and justify. These are text aligns. We can even give line height. So line height. So we have line height. That means actually it sets the space between lines. So between lines, we can keep here letter spacing, letter spacing. So and it will set space between letters. So we have word spacing, and that sets the space between words. And we have a font variant. So variant, actually font variant. So variant is variant. Actually, font variant is used for defining the uppercase caps, lowercase. But what is important is without changing the size. Generally, here text transform also can change uppercase, lowercase, but they will change the size. Without changing the size, you can manage that. Right. We have text indent. We have text indent. Text indent. Indent. Text indent is nothing but first line spacing. First line spacing. Space for the first line. How many characters space you want first line spacing. We have like text overflow. Overflow. That means it controls the wrapping of text. Controls the wrapping of text. Wrapping of text. So we have white space. So white space is nothing but controls the blank space. The blank space. These are all text formatting options. We even have a text orientation. Text orientation. Vertical orientation and all this changes the orientation of text. Of text. These are all effects. And if you know these effects, you can do everything what you want. Right? Everything what you want, you can configure that and you can define that. So usually how we can configure this, how we can define this technically. So how do we add these options, right? So usually all these options we can keep anywhere we want. Generally these work. Let's simple example see. So that means text effects. How we can configure the text effects. So let's create a simple heading. So doc type HTML and head and title as text effects. Okay, in the body, I'll just give a heading. So or simply I will give a div and say sample text. Okay. Now I want to apply some effects for this. Whatever effects I given, many of them we already learned how to deal with them.